Let us stand with a greater determination.
Hi, my name is Paul Davis. I'm from Fort Smith, Arkansas, and I'm the pastor of St. James Missionary Baptist Church. After spending 37 years in corporate America, I'm excited to be serving the community in a lot of different capacities. Particularly excited about serving on the Arkansas MLK Commission. And this week is going to be a very great week for me because what we've been able to do is come out and just visit the King Center, and that which we are standing for and that which we're representing. We get a chance to walk the halls, talk to the people, and hopefully come out and do a great job in the community.
My name is Dr. Sharon Anthony, and so far on this King's trip it has been very inspiring. Just the thought of understanding of what's getting ready to happen, what we're getting ready to learn. Just the trip down here, just thinking about it, traveling, that road, it really brought me to tears because it really put it into perspective what was getting ready to happen and what was getting ready to impact my life, and that was the story of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness. Let us stand with a greater determination. Let us move on in these powerful days, these days of challenge, to make America what it ought to be. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation. I want to thank God once more for allowing me to be here with you.
Hi, my name is Jackie Ferguson, and I'm from Hot Springs, Arkansas, here at the King Center where we've been studying Nonviolence 365. On today, we've been talking about the letter from the Birmingham jail in which Dr. Martin Luther King at this time was incarcerated, and he responded to the letter from 8 clergymen in Birmingham during this time. The letter was very informative. It brought out a lot of different topics. It also showed how the 6 principles came about out of this letter, but it also re-emphasized the issue that Dr. King was formerly trying to say. He said there is the just and the unjust, and he was trying to get the clergymen to understand how can you thus preach for a just world, but you live in an unjust world and you're okay with how they're doing. The class has been phenomenal. We've had a lot of interaction. We've also related a lot of Dr. King's principles to biblical principles as well as our moral and ethical principles. I am enjoying myself here in Atlanta, and I am excited to take this information back to my hometown.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel as though what they're saying is relevant to today's generation?
Yes, very much so. What they're saying we're experiencing it today. What Dr. King wrote years ago, he wrote it for us today, and it's to keep encouraging us and motivating us to continue to try to create a more beloved community in our world house.
I'm Lane Ragsdale from Harrison, Arkansas. Yesterday was our first day of orientation here at the King Center, where we looked at the principles of nonviolence. I've learned so much during this time that we've been here, how the principles are the spirit, how the steps toward nonviolent resolution are the practical application of those, the spirit that fills you with that, how you have the ability to confront in love, have you have the ability to reach solutions and reconciliation without it being a uncomfortable, confrontational, violent happening. We've learned that conflict is okay, and we need to use that, the creative conflict, the creative tensions that come with that, to be able to reach toward a beloved community of reconciliation and love. It's been such a great learning experience, and I'm so glad to have the opportunity to be here.
And We just left an amazing session where there was just a lot of conversations had that was kind of hard conversations to be able to have, and it was wonderful and fascinating to get to be a part of that, those discussions, to be in that safe space, as Lane said, and to be able to say what we feel and what we need, and to learn also how to do conflict resolution in a nonviolent way. So it was a wonderful, practical example of how to put the Dr. King's nonviolence principles into action.
Hello, I am Reverend Lynette Frazier, and I'm from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I'm here at the Martin Luther King training on nonviolence. And I just have to say that I'm very blessed and humbled to be here and have the opportunity to be among an eclectic group of people from all over the United States here to learn about King's 6 principles and his steps on nonviolence. And I have learned so much. I learned that the beloved community is not a community where we all just get along and we don't have any conflict, but we have conflict and we find ways to work through those conflicts in a peaceful manner where we're not trying to put hands on anybody. I like the steps of looking at gathering all the facts, because based on your culture, based on my culture, based on how you were raised, based on how I was raised, there may be some various differences, but there also may be some commonalities that we can use to bring us closer together. And we understand that with that, it also comes the idea of being able to negotiate and reconcile our differences. And in that reconciliation, we know that each party has to admit to what is wrong and what is right. But we also need to also understand that we can't have hatred in our hearts. We have to be able to come from a place of love where we really do strive to make it a beloved community, where we can have our opinions and our differences, but we can work towards making it a better community. And so I love the fact that we are here in Martin Luther King's Center, and I love the training that we had, and I appreciate all of the trainers that have taught us how to apply those principles, and I can't wait to get back to where I am. I pastor in McGee, Arkansas, so I'm going to utilize the tools there, and I live in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I plan to utilize the tools there too. And so I'm encouraging each and every last one of us to do our part in what we need to do to bring us closer together and realize that violence is not the key. Thank you.
Lane Ragsdale. I have loved the opportunity to be here at the King Center. I've learned a lot about the steps and the processes and how to be practical about implementing the nonviolent principles that we're learning. I love the fact it's a safe space where we can talk out these issues that oftentimes individually we'd be uncomfortable speaking to one another about.
Okay, tell me about Coretta Scott King.
Okay, I found out that she was basically, in my eyes, an outreach coordinator, because she went to different hoods trying to figure out how she could get different people to come together and be more cohesive as a unit. What else did I learn? That how she really fought to preserve the community, her like Ebenezer Church and they home and things of that sort. That they are buried in a little fountain. And that MLK did get exhumed, because I asked did he get exhumed from his grave, because I know that the MLK Center wasn't here when he was born. I mean, when he died. Well, so got assassinated. So I asked, was he exhumed? And he was. He was in Longview or something like that cemetery. So with his parents. So they are both buried in, I think, the waterfall that's in the MLK Center. So I was kind of excited about that. I'm like, I'm over here taking pictures and not knowing that these is really where they're buried. Like, I did not know that. I thought it was a replica or something of that sort. All the education that she had, and what else did I learn? It's so much. I'm trying to just gather so much. My head is everywhere because I have so many facts.
Tell me again about the experience, like going to the home and the church.
Well, the home I felt like it was a warm vibe in there. Like I could tell it was a family unit. And how many rooms there was. I didn't know that the house was that big. Like I've always seen it on the History Channel and stuff like that, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's nice. But it must look run down or something like that. It is really nice, really nice. It's like 4 or 5 bedrooms in there, and I was just like, wow. And then like all the generations that was raised and brought up in there, like they said that it's called the birth home because they were actually born there. I didn't know that. I thought they were born in the hospital, but they said no, back in those days, due to discrimination and stuff like that, their parents didn't want them to be discriminated against, so they were born in the house, all his siblings. And then I found out that his father outlived them both. He lost MLK, then a year later he lost his other son, and then in the church, he said that, well, they said that he had a eerie vibe that whole day, and then the shooter had shot his wife at the organ and stuff like that, and he died when he was like 84. Wow. So he had a very long life in my eyes, and that he really influenced MLK. Like, and he's one of MLK's like top influencers. But I thought it was just like Gandhi or something like that. I didn't know that it basically started in the home. Even though that's where foundation is, but you know how the world is now, like a lot of structure is not in homes like it should be. So me hearing that, and they reiterate like you need to start off with love and, you know, have a foundation at home first. I really appreciated that fact.
And to think that what started at his home influenced people all over the world. Right,
that's why I really like that. I was like, yes, people need to know that. People need to actually come to this and realize that, like, it's where love and your foundation starts at home, you know? Mm-hmm. To make the world a better place, I feel like it does start at home.
First place is the home.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So I was just like, yeah, that's really unique. That is, well, not unique, but that is true. That is a true fact.
Hello, my name is Charles Stewart. When I pulled up to the building I was driving in, it's very amazing. I think if you haven't been here, or if you've been here, it's a good legacy place. It's very nice and beautiful, kept clean. So I'm very impressed with this.
You know, when we create violence or when we respond back violently, it also hurts the murderer, right? And so if I was to actually use violence to try to get retribution or get return the energy that I experienced, I would be experiencing pain myself. And so I think the reason why young people need to understand nonviolence is because we have to make it that violence is not the norm. You know, in television and movies over the last, I would say 30 to 40 years, we've seen violence more prevalent, especially via social media. But we have to realize that violence is not normal. We've come to a place in the country and in media that violence, death, murder, people's heads being chopped off is normal, and we have to unnormalize that reality. I think we have to put out messages of peace and remind people that violence is not the first. And so what I find often is actually people who are older than me, who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, who see violence as a way of being in the ways that my generation doesn't. And so maybe because that generation grew up during the Vietnam War, maybe even some people who grew up in World War II and the Iraq War, think that violence has to happen. But my generation, especially millennials, are folks who don't necessarily feel like violence needs to be a thing. Even the conversations that we have in community that says, someone hits you, you hit them back. That's not how I'm going to train up my kids in the way that they should go. I'm also not going to spank my kids. And so I think that as we continue to grow, our generation is shifting in a way that, you know, I think some of our elders have to take account for. Because I'm just not becoming in a position of power to be able to change some of these things, but it's really looking at the folks who are older than me to ask them, when did violence become normal for you? When did violence become a part of your everyday? When did guns and harm become a normalized behavior? Because it's not normal for me. And I was born in 1990, so.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. What is your impression of coming here for the first time?
Oh, it's a real fun trip. Good group of people. Weather's great. I'm pleased to be a part of it.
Let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness. Let us stand with a greater determination.